We're going to talk about Obamacare, or PCACA. The thing that really irritates me, I guess, the most about this whole thing is prior to this, 85% of the people in this country were happy with their health care. Do you really think 85% of the people are happy today? I mean, this is insane. There were about 6 major issues with health care that probably could have been addressed with 6 major pieces of legislation individually. The thing could have been solved. But no, we had to do this. PCACA did not address some of the major issues: tort reform, purchase of insurance across state line, and a bunch of other things that they just ignored. My comment is the major thrust of Obamacare, or PCACA, is really about population control and not about health care. There's about a half a dozen things that the health care plan put out. Everybody said, oh, we got all these wonderful benefits. Now you got to pay for them, and for the benefits you got, you're really going to get hammered coming up in the future, and it's starting right about now. One of the things about this population control, I will address that a little later on. I think everybody's pretty much aware Obamacare created like 150 new government agencies. Among them, we're supposed to have 50 state health care exchanges. Looks like about 30 states today will not start those themselves, and the federal government is going to have to initiate the exchanges. I don't think it really makes a difference. I'm under the impression there's like 300 pages of rules about a state exchange, so it doesn't really matter whether the state or the federal government initiates the exchange. I think they're all going to be pretty much the same. It's all regulated. But so far, they were, when I did this is a few months old, they were already $111 billion over budget in the first year, and most of the infrastructure hasn't even been put together yet. Andy Stern, the former head of the SEIU, visited the White House 22 times prior to passage of Obamacare. How many thousands of public sector employees do you think will staff these agencies and exchanges? That's what this is really about. Don't overlook this one, because that's what's important. I don't know, a lot of people have seen this. This is a schematic diagram of Obamacare. It's old. I'm sure probably most of you have seen it. But that's what you're really dealing with as far as the bureaucracy is concerned. The cost for this new bureaucracy is going to be staggering, and it's a cost we can't afford. I think it was estimated to be $900 billion. I think it's pretty close to 2.9 trillion now is what the estimates were. And that's pretty close to what the estimates of the Republicans said it would be in the beginning. Also, it creates a monstrous voting bloc with almost unlimited funding, and this is the union dues. All these people are going to be in the unions. I'll cover that a little bit more later. And don't think these people didn't miss this fact. My take on this at the health care is a stalking horse to alter the future political landscape of this country. This is a promise President Obama made speaking to the SEIU a number of years ago, and I think it's promise kept. Now, let's see what else we have here. This book that I have here called Shadow Bosses, written by a guy by the name of Mallory Factor. He was on Fox and Friends early one morning. I took some notes from this. I also bought the book. Now, according to Mr. Factor, this Obamacare expects to not only organize all of the people that are in these bureaucracies that are being created, but also all the people in the healthcare industry. All right? We're talking about maybe 1 million new people that are going to be in unions. They're going to be unionized. You're going to have close to $1 billion worth of union dues. All this money is going to be used to buy corrupt politicians and to keep pushing their agenda. That's what they've been doing for years. And this bill really, in my opinion, is what this is all about. Okay? And if you think about it, according to this book, all unions at all levels, state, local, and national, collect about $14 billion a year in dues. Over 95% of that goes to the Democrat Party. That's more revenue than 65% of the Fortune 500 companies in this country. Homeland Security is 40% unionized. DOD is about 20%. Even NASA scientists are unionized. I did attend a monthly meeting, this was a few months ago, of the Lehigh Valley Coalition for Healthcare. Representative Dent was the featured speaker. I didn't feel he was particularly knowledgeable on certain aspects of Obamacare, but that's not really the thing. He was asked about the unionizing that is incorporated in the bill, and he really dodged the question. I didn't really feel that he wanted to answer it. He did say some things, though, that kind of surprised me, but didn't realize it. The third largest employer in the world is the British healthcare system. The largest is the Chinese army, and the second largest is the Indian Railway. So we have much to look forward to with Obamacare. All right. Dent also estimated, and I've seen this figure before, I think some of this has come out of the government agencies. They estimate that Obamacare will cost about 800,000 jobs over the next 10 years. And you're starting to see that now. A lot of these places, especially the restaurant and food service industry, they're cutting all their people back to 28 hours a week to beat Obamacare, because a full-time employee has to be 30 hours or more. So you don't have full-time employees. They don't need health care. So you cut their hours back. You don't have to give them insurance, that sort of thing. A lot of jobs are being lost over Obamacare. I'll cover a little bit more about that in a minute. The other thing is, this is really an attempt also to force doctors out of private practice. About 5 years ago, 60% of doctors were in private practice. Today, about 40% are. I have a good friend who's a doctor, and he estimates that in about 5 years, there will be very few doctors in private practice. Most of these people are going to be with insurance companies, or they'll also be part of hospitals. They're going to be unionized, and they're going to get their salary down to something that the government feels that they're worth. Right now, the government is very upset that doctors make so much money. Part of this bill is also going after the doctors. I think if you take a real look at Obamacare, you'll see that doctors are in their crosshairs. There's another thing that I think you need to look at if you'd like. There's a doctor by the name of Dr. Jill Vecchio. She has 7 YouTube videos about Obamacare. Just Google her name, and you'll find out some very interesting things about Obamacare. She is an oncologist. She graduated Iowa State University with honors. And one of the things that she was saying is that with Obamacare, she is now allowed only to do mammograms on women every 2 years. And once you're 74 years old, they won't do them anymore. And I've also heard that once you're 70, it sort of makes sense, because what I've heard is if you get diagnosed with cancer once you're 76, they will not give you treatment for cancer. I think that's something that's pretty much in stone in this bill. Been 13 new tax increases that we've been hammered with this year. I have some of them in here. I hope I'm not boring you with this. You got hit right away with this 2% Social Security tax, which I don't get hit with because I'm retired. But nonetheless, if you gross $50,000, it's going to cost you an extra $1,000 in Social Security tax. That's this year. There's a clever little tax called the Medicare device tax. I'll cover that in a little bit more detail because my wife and I own a business. We manufacture a medical device, so I have a little experience with that one. Basically, they're going to try, it's a 2.3% excise tax on everything you manufacture. It's total sales. So you pay 2.3% of your total sales. This is going to kill a lot of industries. The other thing is, not only does these medical devices are not only for doctors, they're for dentists. Anything over $100, even FIDO gets involved. The vet has to pay the 2.3% on anything that's for your pets. If it's over $100, the vet even has to pay for medical devices, okay? Crazy. Let me see. Income, just to give you an example, income taxes, everybody seems to want to tax the people, the rich. And I think even the polls said that like 60% of the Americans said, well, we want to tax the rich people. They're not paying their fair share. One of the things that this points out in here, if you make $400,000 or $450,000 a year, your tax goes from 35% to to 39.6%. Now you've got a 2% increase in Social Security. On $400,000, you're going to be paying $26,400 more per year in taxes. Now that's the equivalent of an employee making $12.69 an hour for a year for 40 hours a week. Now if you're that person and you have a business, you don't have that kind of money to absorb that. You're going to wind up laying people off, and that's another reason why Obamacare is a job killer. They're taxing the people that are small business owners. They don't have the money to absorb this. If all is said and done, if you make $400,000 to $450,000 a year, you will be looking, with all the new taxes, about $40,000 or $50,000 in additional taxes in a year. That's like a 12% increase. And if you realize most businesses don't have a 12% profit margin. So somebody's going to have to take a loss someplace. So it's basically additional layoffs. That's the kind of thing we're facing. I don't think people realize the ramifications of the taxes that they're going to be hit with. Now, I have a handout which I'll show you here. This is it. I'll put it on the table for people to look at if you so desire. As I said before, my wife and I own a small business. We're a medical device manufacturer. I want to explain to this sort of how this works. In 2007, we've been doing this since 1995. In 2007, the FDA decided to initiate a registration fee. So this is if you sell a medical device in this country, or if you bring one from overseas and sell it here, you have to pay the FDA. This gives you nothing. The FDA doesn't guarantee your product. It doesn't accept your product. It just allows you to sell. You don't pay them the fee, they'll stop you from selling your product, okay? That fee has now gone up to $2,600 a year. That's what we have to pay. It went up $500 in 2000, over $500 in 2013. Okay? And you have to pay this for every product line. We're a one product line company, so we pay the $2,500 or $2,600 just to sell in this country. Okay? Now, we've got the 2.3% tax on everything that we sell. Now, with what we sold last year, if we sell the same amount, that's $4,000 in additional taxes I will pay without making a dime more in income. So between the increase in the registration fee and the Obamacare, just the 2.3% tax alone, no other taxes, it's going to cost me at least $4,000 this coming year, without any increase in revenue. At this point, I don't know what to say. What we're going to have to pay with other taxes that are coming. All right. We're a subchapter S corporation. We pay taxes on our income like everybody else. I have Social Security, have a mandatory deduction. Once you're 70 and a half, you have to take the mandatory deduction from your retirement. So my income is probably something a little less than $100,000 a year, and they're telling that you're not going to get a tax increase if you make less than $200,000 a year. BS. Okay. We don't have any employees, but we do buy about 50 parts from different vendors. So if we have to raise our price, which we're going to do, to offset some of this cost because we can't eat it all, if it hurts our sales or our sales go down, then we buy less inventory, and that means it's less things that we're purchasing from other manufacturers in the local area that depend on us for their business. So it's kind of a, I don't know, it kind of rolls downhill. Now every device manufacturer is facing the same thing. I was in this business most of my life. I worked for a couple of biomedical companies. One is a company by the name of Beckman Coulter. I retired from there after 25 years. I also worked for a division of SmithKline. All these companies are facing that dilemma today because they have this 2.3% tax on their gross sales. If you're a $2 billion company, 2.3% is a lot of money. And that's R&D, that's a whole mess of things that companies use to keep themselves in business. One of the major companies, I think it's Stryker, and you see Stryker advertise on television for the knee joints and the hip joints and that kind of stuff. They laid off 1,000 people, which is 1/20th of their workforce, 5% of their workforce, due to Obamacare. And a lot of these people are looking to relocate to other countries and take their business elsewhere rather than manufacture here. So this is really kind of serious. The company I used to work for, I talked to some of the people. People are getting laid off that, like in their late 50s, early 60s, just before Social Security, because they're management people. They've been there a long time. They have to cut back someplace, and you cut back somebody like a manager, consolidate areas and things like that. That's where you save the most amount of money. And so they're laying people off in a lot of these companies because of this bill. I'll talk a little bit about the exchanges. I'm not going to get too involved with those tonight. This Pennsylvania Affordable Care Act, it really affects us. One of the things that was supposed to happen, Obamacare was supposed to cover 30 million new people. They were going to put about 16 million of them in Medicaid, and about the other 16 million were going to go into these exchanges. Now, one of the things that happened was the Supreme Court decision said they did not have to put these people into Medicaid. They did not have to expand the program under Obamacare. I don't know what happens to these people, but I'm assuming with all the money that we're going to pay, we're still going to wind up with a whole mess of people that do not have insurance, because these people cannot afford to go into the exchanges. Therefore, and if we don't take them in Medicaid, they're still not going to be covered. But if they were covered, that would have been 800,000 new additional people in Medicaid in this state. And you think we're 30% of our budget right now is because of Medicaid. And you're going to put 800,000 or some, unknown number of people into Medicaid. It would cost about $21 billion between 2014 and 2022. This is according to the Heritage Foundation. Now, a lot of federal tax dollars pay for most of this, but it would still cost the state between 1.3 and 5.5 billion just to put those people in Medicaid. A lot of money. As far as that goes, 30% of our state's operating budget is Medicaid. And this stuff is growing faster, much faster than the economy, much faster than the economy or anything else. I guess that's about all I have. One of the other things, that kind of struck me is that we got $34.8 million from the federal government to start these exchanges in the state, okay? You can go on the internet and buy health insurance. And it didn't cost anybody $34 million just to set one of these things up and do some studies on this. I mean, this stuff is insane. My wife bought, a small business owner, my wife is not on Social Security. She went on internet and bought health care insurance. Now, this isn't really much different than what the government wants to set up for these health care exchanges, except it's going to have to be government-approved health care is the only thing that they will sell on the state exchanges. So, but I just thought that was crazy. $34 million grant to fund implementing a state health care exchange when you can go on the internet right now. It's all there. You can buy it. It doesn't cost you anything. And all these insurance companies advertise on the exchange, on the internet. That's about all I have for tonight. I hope we didn't bore you. And I guess that's it.